Morning everyone. Today our building work starts and the builder has just arrived, and I sort of wish that I'd started this earlier because now I'm going to have to film in front of people that I don't know, which is always hideously embarrassing. So what we're having done, because I haven't really talked about this before, is through this door in the kitchen, which I've never gone through, there is a room that was built possibly quite a long time ago, so maybe the 80s, possibly by somebody for like an elderly relative or like as a sort of annex. And so it's really weird, it was really badly built and doesn't really serve much purpose. It's got a bathroom that leads to nowhere, like a loo and a sink. And then this garden room, which is quite nice and light, but it's just the whole thing is absolutely freezing. I can't really describe to you how chilly it is. It's sort of like, it's the door now. It's like being outside. So there's the kitchen window there, it's the back of the house, around the corner. And this goes through to another room that just, I mean, it's quite big and light, but it just doesn't serve any purpose. So up there, that's the window that you can sometimes see at the back of my studio where I shoot my videos. Okay, that's the door into the useless room, that's the window, and then this window here goes into what used to be the dining room and is now at the moment a playroom. So you can see that flat roof, it joins onto the pitched roof. So the pitched roof is staying because that's listed sort of old 1815 or something like that, and then the flat roof that joins it is the bit that is coming down, and the extension will come a bit bigger than what's there actually. I think it comes just past, okay, so see where that end wall is that juts out here? I think the extension comes to there. Hi everyone, due to popular request I am doing a video on the extension or the building work that we're having done, which actually isn't really an extension because I don't know what you'd call it, because there was something here before, we've knocked it down and we're building something else. So I thought I would talk you through it, and I've got a list of questions from people, burning questions that they had about finding builders and architects and listed buildings and things like that, so I'll endeavour to get through those. There was a sort of a strange wing here. I'll drop some photos in, and I think it had been built in maybe the 80s without permission. Because it's a listed building, you need to have permission to basically sneeze, which I think is a good thing because it just means it preserves beautiful or sort of significant buildings. So it's great, I'm not dissing that at all, but they did it without permission. Decades and decades ago, it was built really badly, and the owners of this house, before they sold it to us, had started the process of getting planning permission to demolish it and build something better. Now, this house is, I love it, it's absolutely amazing. It's just so handsome, it's brilliant. We definitely didn't need any more space at all, so we did think long and hard about doing this building work. But what we did need was some kind of connection to the outside space. I don't think it was anything that was really on the top of the Georgian people's list of priorities. So obviously there's nothing in the way of French doors or windows that open directly out into the garden. And I don't know, if you saw my last house, it was very modernist. It was just enclosed by the garden, and it had huge sliding doors that came out, and it was brilliant because you just feel like it opens the house up. And here, once you're in the house, you very much feel like you're in the house. So to cut a long story short, flapping my plans around here, the people that owned the house before us got planning permission to build something amazing. So that answers a lot of people's questions about how did you decide what you wanted to do, what you wanted it to look like. It had already been done, and the planning had already been passed between the time when we exchanged and completed on the house. So that sort of set the tone. We didn't like exactly what the what they had submitted. So we actually changed it and went back through planning, but it was really minor changes. And we were really lucky because what they wanted to do was pretty much what we would have done as well. And it's something that planners and listed building officers really seem to like these days, which is something very modern that is completely different to the house that you're building against. So rather than having a pastiche extension where you try and mimic the building, which, I mean, sometimes it looks great, but a lot of the time it just can look odd, you do something completely different. And the whole sort of glass room idea with a flat roof, which I suppose is very modernist, is something that people tend to do quite a lot, because it's almost like the building is floating beside the existing building. I know that doesn't look like it at the moment, but it will. So this is going to be a dining room, really, although it's sort of a dining room and there will be little bits of casual seating and things like that. And all of these walls are glass. There's 3 huge sliding doors on each side, really very tall. I think it's sort of 2.6, 2.7 metres tall sliding doors, 3 sliding doors on each side. And because the doors are so huge and tall and they're such a massive part of the build, we went for a company called Slimline, who are, you know, sort of like the creme de la creme of door makers, window makers, really, because I just, you know, it's a huge investment. They are really what you're going to see, and they've got tiny frames, and it all just added to the effect that the house, this extension sort of floated next to the house. So I thought that the quality of the doors was really important, and also the way that they had been designed with very, very slim frames and no handles, and they're just going to be gorgeous. So maybe I'll go more into the bits and pieces that we chose and the decisions that we made in the next video. But pretty much everything, you know, the shape and the size of it had really been decided before we bought the house. We just made a few tweaks and took away some bits of wall that were going to be here, like pocket walls that the doors slid into. We just wanted glass. Yeah, just be careful. Don't go down in the hole. It's always going to be called the hole. Go on then, let's go on the trampoline. Just having a brief break for a bit of trampolining. So this was what it looked from the side. Look, you've got the old bit, and then it had this weird sort of annex part, and then the kitchen is behind there. That's what it was like from the back. So that's sort of the utility, and then the kitchen is sort of back there by one room, and then you have this little annex, and then this is what it will, my papers are going to fly across the garden. This is what it will look like. So that little house thing has gone, which was like that, and then this is the glass. Although, actually, sorry, these are old plans. It just goes straight across now, straight across that way, and it's got 3 big sliding doors. So it doesn't look like that at all. But from the back, it does look like that. Originally, we were going to have a little door and a step down in the roof, but then we just decided we wanted it really clean. Here are some kind of examples of similar types of houses. I think ours is, yeah, 3 across, so ours is sort of slightly bigger than that each way. But you can see the lovely huge glass against the stone. And then these bits that go across like this are being clad in corten steel, which over the years rusts and goes this beautiful sort of deep brown colour, and will sort of look the same as Barry. Can you see Barry the giant down there? The rusty giant. But it's just a softer, it's softer than having render. It will just look softer within its surroundings. So yeah, that's that. So I had a few questions asking whether it'd been really stressful, and actually no, it hasn't been. And I think actually that's one of the main reasons why I haven't really talked about it much, because When we renovated our last house and basically rebuilt it, it was really stressful. I was pregnant with Angelica, and then I had Angelica while we were still living in rented holiday accommodation. But with this one, it's very much just boarded off, and it doesn't affect our lives at all. I mean, really doesn't. The only real stressful bits are, you know, like deciding on the glass. You can go for something that is not relatively inexpensive, but it is at one price band, or you can have something that's like 3 times the price, but a beautiful product. And it's trying to decide whether you can justify going for the more expensive build, and sort of weighing it up with how long you might think you're going to be living somewhere, or whether you're really going to notice certain details. So I'll go into those in the next video again, but there have been a couple of things that we've sort of dithered on, but not much. You can see here as well that we're having quite a lot of landscaping done, and this was just a scrubby hill before that you couldn't really do anything with. Those steps aren't going to look like that at all. They're going to be sandstone. And if I take you down this hill and show you, so all of the landscaping is going to be in what's here already, like a sandstone. Not salvaged actually, because that's so expensive, but it won't look like this. Obviously this is just the foundations of everything, but you can see that we're having dry stone walling, which is so beautiful. So it's, that bit of driveway is massive and really raised, so you've got to have something strong behind it to stop it all falling in, but then it's faced with dry stone walling, and it's just going to look beautiful. There's Ted at the back door. Okay, putting my camera down to chat the serious stuff. All right, I had quite a few questions about the house being listed and whether it presented a lot of problems, but as I said, a lot of the planning had been done before, and they had done pre-planning, and that's something that you can do. If you're worried, you can go for sorry, I feel like I'm talking over my shoulder. That's because I'm sat at a weird angle. You can go for pre-planning in the UK, where you can sort of chat to planners and you can kind of get a feel for what you're going to be allowed to do. But it is a lot stricter if you have a listed building, or if you're in a conservation area. You don't automatically get things like permitted development, which is when in the UK you're allowed to build extensions or do certain alterations without any planning permission. I've got to get up from there. It's making me look like Mrs. Dome Shoulders. Let me see if I can put this camera on top of that sprinkler that's on, by the way. We don't tend to do a lot of that, but we're trying to get the new turf to bed in, whatever the word is. So that's on. That's the noise that you can hear. I'll just stand under my little gazebo, shall I? So yeah, the final thing I wanted to get to, people are asking about project managing and all that kind of thing. It's such a small build that really, I mean, just the architect and the builder have worked between them just to make sure everything's fine. And I'd say that we're pretty hands-on because we've done it before, and actually what we're doing here is there are a lot of similarities with the main downstairs that we added on our last house. You know, just glass all the way around and a flat roof with a living roof on top. And because we'd done it before, we knew which problems we had with the last build that were a real headache, and the ways that we overcame them. And so we knew not to go down that road with this one and give ourselves loads of problems to have to deal with. So I think just from experience, touch wood, this one is a little bit more smooth. The builder we found, because we'd had such outrageous quotes, I'll come on to cost in a little minute, we'd had such outrageous quotes from a couple of companies that we just wanted to get as many quotes as possible. And in fact, we were talking to one of our neighbours about one of the quotes we'd had, and he was laughing at how outrageous it was. And he said that his son worked with a builder who was really good, which was how we met Charlie. And so we just instantly really liked him, really trusted him. So we went with him, and then he recommended the architect. Even if we had stuck with the design that had gone through planning already, just for ease, then I think we would have still, we would have still had to have had an architect, because we needed all the technical drawings and then somebody to sort of liaise with the builder and the structural engineers and people like that. But he recommended her and she's amazing, and since we've started using her, lots of people from other sort of necks of the wood have recommended her as well. Both of these people only work in a very sort of tight area in Somerset that I'm in, because they just have loads and loads of work. So if you know for a fact that you're sort of round about where I am, then give me a DM and I'll pass on their details. But I just don't want them to be inundated with people saying, do you come to London? Do you come to Cheshire? So that takes us on to cost, which is, I'm just going to straddle this wire because I feel really uncomfortable talking about it. I ummed and ahed about this and then thought, look, it's actually quite pointless talking about how much this cost because every single build is different. You could probably build this for, I don't know, half the price that we're spending. Someone else could spend twice as much money as we're spending. It just depends on what type of finish you want and what kind of details you're going for and how much money they cost. So, you know, as I said with the windows, we've gone for really, really quite incredible windows that are really, really high, and they're almost frameless. They don't have any handles. They're just amazing. We're having them sprayed this sort of like bronzy colour that will look really good against the Corten steel that we're having clad. So you can see all of these things, including like the landscaping, this dry stone walling, the roof box light that's going in, the living roof with the sedum. They're all really expensive details that you don't have to have. So if you were just having a box and you went for perfectly good sort of standard sliding doors, it would be a lot cheaper. And I think this is the point, is you can spend as much as you want to. You can't spend as little as you want to, because I think things like sliding doors, you know, they come in at a minimum price, really. It's not like you can skimp on that. I don't know whether that's answered your question on cost, but I think my main tips would be get at least 3 quotes, have a bigger contingency pot than you think you'll need, and just work out your priorities. I mean, I don't particularly go in for like flash cars and like holidays to the Maldives and that kind of thing, but I really like spending on my house. So, you know, if it's not that much of a big deal to you, houses and interiors, then you probably wouldn't buy the amazing doors. So yeah, okay, I'm gonna put this down before I absolutely break my neck. And the next video will be all about little details, and hopefully I'll have a bit more bits and pieces to show you. I've just found some amazing spotlights. I hate spotlights and ceilings, but I think I found some brilliant ones. So I shall order one and I'll show you in the next video, and I can show you what tiles we're having on the floor and that kind of stuff if you're interested. Any more questions, leave them below, and I'll see you in the next video. Ow. Ow. Just talking to my bird up there.